In this video, I'd like to look at a web page that uses a JavaScript array of objects. And this time we're taking the class approach to objects. In the previous video, we looked at the prototype approach. The code can be found at the URL seen here. So here's what the page looks like. It displays horror movies. The user can pick a horror movie, and we display some information about the horror movie, its rating, its rank, its rating as a number. This one happened to be exactly 8, but there are some then have a fractional part, and then a second rating in terms of stars, sort of 4 stars, 3.5 stars, and so on. Although these are the top movies, and most of them end up to be sort of 3.5, a description and sort of a movie poster. So the object will sort of collect all the information about the movie and sort of allow it to sort of be organized to sort of hang together. Okay, so this time I have split off the CSS, and I've split off, there's some JavaScript in the HTML, but the class itself I've separated off to a separate JS file. Okay, so the HTML, we have in the head, we have the title, we have a link to the external style sheet, and we also have a link to the Font Awesome site. And I did this a little while ago. So this is Font Awesome sort of changes the way they do things. So this might be, this may be the old way. It's still currently, it's working. So they respected the sort of old way, but they might have changed. So if it's old, I apologize, but okay. And I'm using Font Awesome to get the sort of stars and half stars. Okay, this, and then there's the CSS that I wrote. So I have a font, I'm calling it the bleeding font. It's this SF Gushing Meadow, and here's the TTF for it. And that was in the file. Here's the collection of files, and there are the TTFs right next to it. So that's me getting this very weird. That's why I call it the bleeding font. Okay, so the headers and the span for the rank both use the bleeding font. And then down here in wrapper, I'm using this is a bunch of divs styled as a grid. So that's why all the divs aren't just each one taking up their own line. I'm saying I'm using 3 columns of 180, 180, and 250 with a grid gap of 5 pixels. And so that overall width of my wrapper of 620 is 180 plus 180 plus 250, and then 2 gaps of 5 each. The box is a class that sort of all the individual divs within the container belong to the class. So that styles this sort of rounded edge and this brown color. And so that's the styling of the box. And then each individual box I gave a second class to. We could have, these are unique, so they could have been styled as with ID. But this just says that it's this class A is in a row 1, column 1, but spans 2 columns, and B is in the 3rd column and the 1st row and spans 3 rows, etc. So here's the first one spanning 2 columns, here's the second one spanning 3 rows, and so on. So that is the style. I'm in the HTML. Here is the div that is the grid, and then here are the sort of boxes within the grid. So these all have a box class, and then and a more individual class. So again, because these are all individual, they could have been done by ID, but the box is a shared thing, so that definitely should be class. I have a select, then it's currently empty of options. I have an image, but it has no source. I have a span for the rank, but there's no rank in there. I have a span for the rating, but there's no rating in there. I have a place to put my stars and a place to put the description. The class is in a separate JS. So let's go look at that. So this is what I showed in the previous video, used the word function and was what we call prototype. But this is a sort of more modern, more sort of in line with other languages, a class approach to objects. So we start with the keyword class. The name of the class is HorrorMovie. I'm giving it a constructor. I'm having a constructor that I know all the pieces of information come into the constructor, and sort of the opposite of a trivial constructor, sort of I know all the information and I assign the first property that comes in will be the rank, and I'll assign it to the object. This refers to the object I'm making, and I'm assigning its rank property to this first thing that comes in, which I called a rank, and creating in title an image and numerical rate and description. I added a function, probably a poorly written function, almost certainly a poorly written function, but I have a rating of the movie, and I'm converting that into like a star rating. And so there's, you have like an 8.7 and a 6.5, but we're converting them into fewer categories with stars, 4, 3.5, 3. So this is just sort of an ugly if else if kind of approach to convert the number rating into a number to a star rating. Okay, it's just an example of having a method in my class, because when I did the prototype, I didn't have any method, so I wanted to do a little bit better. Okay. So I had a script tag that connected to the class, so the class is now known. Now I'm still in the so this JavaScript is in the bottom of the HTML. I make an empty array for my movies. I am making a load. So this is probably overkill because I am at the bottom of the page. So this would have sort of happened anyway, because I only go to this script when I have stuff. But I'm adding the event listener load of the window function and handling it by an anonymous function. So this code gets evaluated when the page loads. I'm grabbing the select from the page and assigning it a change listener and defining a function, choose movie, to handle that event. Here's my long string of data about horror movies. And so I have, this is in the beginning, it's all the information about Psycho separated by vertical bars. And then I have a hashtag or number sign. And then I start off with my second movie, which was Alien. So I have sort of two delimiters. The delimiter between movies is the hashtag. The delimiter between information about a given movie is a vertical bar. I am parsing the information first on between the movies on the hashtag, on the number sign. And I am making an array I called horror data lines. I am looping over that array. I'm using a for each. EL stands for the element of the array. I is my index of the array. And I'm using this sort of fat arrow notation. And here is a method. Here's the code to sort of handle as I iterate through the loop. I am taking the element, which is all the information about Psycho or Alien and etc. And then I'm splitting it on the vertical bar, creating a number of individual pieces of information about Psycho. I called it subdata. As I showed in the previous video, I can use because the order in my class matches the order of the string I'm splitting, I can use the spread operator. If the order changed, or if I want to just do it the old-fashioned way, I would say subdata 0, subdata 1, comma, subdata 1, comma, subdata 2, etc. Okay, I am grabbing the select. Now then I have my array of horror movies. So this is the keyword new. I'm instantiating a horror movie. I'm using now the class style object. Though you don't see much difference here. And now that I have my array of movies, I grab my select. I am looping over my movies. I sort of jump back and forth to show you sort of old style looping and new style looping. This is sort of an old style looping. I'm creating an option that I'm going to add to my select. The text of the option will be the title of the movie. So movies square bracket I. My movies is an array. My movies I is an object of the horror movie type, and it has a property title. So dot my movies square bracket I dot title. The value, what I get behind the scenes when I grab the select, I'm going to use the index, and then I'm going to append the option to the select. I want to act like when the user starts the page, as if the user has chosen the first movie. So remember, in design, I had no source for my image. I had no ratings. I had no anything in there. And that's going to be done when I choose a movie, or when the user chooses a movie. And this is the code making it seem like when the page comes up as if the user has chosen a movie. So creating a change event and then dispatching the change event to my select. So act like the select has gone through a change event. Here's what we do when the user chooses a movie. Let me make a little more room here. I am going to the select and grabbing its value, which is the index of the array. And then I'm using my array, my movies, with that index, my index, and grabbing its various properties. The image for the source of the image, the description for the div descriptions inner HTML, the rank for the inner HTML of span rank. And then I have these stars. And so I'm using the method that I made convert rating. So that's taking my sort of like 8.7 for Psycho and turning it into 3.5. And then I have another method called make stars, which is defined below, which is defining 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars. So it's taking that rating and turning it into the stars. So the first one is the number. So I said the 3.5, and then the second one is this sort of star rating. And that's just another, there could be a better probably function, but I just decided to use a bunch of ifs, else ifs, and if the ratings, and here is using what I got from a font awesome. So this was a false. So here is anything above a 3.75 gets a rating of 4 stars. But if I'm bigger than 3.5, I'm going to rate it as 3.5 stars. So here's a full star, and another full star, and another full star, but the last one is a half star. So there's a full star, a half star, and an empty star. And so as we go down, sort of less filled stars and more empty stars, and in between, sometimes we have the half filled stars. All right, so that is what I wanted to show you in this example. The class version instead of the prototype version, a little work with Font Awesome, including a method in my class.